Okay. Okie dokie, Smoky Joe. Let's do some chatting. I have to go to the dentist in a few minutes. Ugh, the dentist. I'm still having a heck of a time finding a dentist for Cooper, but I'm not giving up. My son Cooper's 14, and this is like the underbelly of the world. Like, no one knows how hard it is to find good dental care for individuals with disabilities. There, I said it. You may be like awesome at it or have found it, but just know that the majority of us cannot find dental practices for our kids. And I live in a super big city with lots of other little cities. I'm in the Twin Cities of Minnesota. And I can think of 3 places that do sedated dentistry. One, the U of M is not taking patients. The second one, I can't get an appointment. And the third one, I'm trying it. And I have been trying and trying and trying and trying. I'm not giving up. Cooper has never had a full dental exam. Not for lack of trying, trust me. He's never had x-rays. So I'm super anxious. I had a tooth in the middle of my mouth. I had to have a, truthfully, I had to have a bracket. I pulled on it and have it pulled over. And I don't know if he has, I don't know. We don't know. And this morning I was saying to him, I'm like, buddy, so he gets it for me. I've had braces and Invisalign, so my teeth are straight on the bottom, but we have a very crooked tooth, like right here. And so his is like sideways. Doing braces for Cooper does not make any sense. It would just be pure torture for him. And if it's not affecting him physically or emotionally, like Sawyer, our 12-year-old, he's like, Mom, I'm embarrassed of my teeth, and, are working on that. Coops doesn't care. So we're not going to put him through braces. But I was just looking and I was like, oh, this autism life, it's so different. It's so different. Ha. Hello, everyone. We had our Coops Troops book club last night. I have a supporter group that I love and adore, and we do a book club, and we virtually. And last night, everyone read Autism Out Loud. And so Carrie, Adrian, and I hopped on, and we chatted and answered questions about the book. And some of them were relatively new, like some of them that we hadn't answered before. So that was fun. I was sharing that true story in the book. I have a Mary Oliver quote that probably impacted me more than any other quote in my life, I guess. And the quote is, I'm going to say it wrong, but somebody once gave me a box full of darkness. I too learned later or how does it go? I learned later that too was a gift. And I stumbled upon that quote right when Cooper was diagnosed. And I never talked about it and I never shared it because I didn't want anyone to ever think that I was insinuating that Cooper was a box full of darkness. He's not. I mean, Cooper is the light of my life. But raising a child with a disability in a world that isn't created for him does feel dark sometimes and sad and hard. Like we're fighting for everything. And so that part of the book went through, I think, maybe 5 or 6 iterations until I got it right. And so I was also asked what was the hardest part to write. And I normally say grief, but the hardest part actually was education, because we have had some really hard, awful things happen educationally. I can't lie. And I wanted to speak to that while being respectful to our school and show my gratitude and thanks to those who choose to teach our kids. But we had something really bad happen. A person broke me with the things that she said about Cooper. And I wanted to speak to it for all the parents that have, sat at a table. Ours was virtual because it was during COVID. And I wanted to speak to that, what that does to you. And I did, I think. And I wrote it and I rewrote it and I rewrote it. And I think I did it. I think I covered it right. And I don't even remember if I put the final sentence in there. I sat on a Zoom, my husband and I sat on a Zoom with 16 people, and this monster, I don't know how I could even describe it a different way. Just an awful person said, Cooper is causing me psychological damage and I don't want to teach him. And you should know that he's causing damage to other people and students and teachers. And it's completely false. It was completely false. And the director of SPED ended the Zoom with all of us just with our mouths open. And then she called me and essentially begged us not to take further action and said that they'd have a new school for him. And they did within, a week. But I'll never forget her. And I will quote her in every presentation I give because I don't know why she said that. It broke me. I think if that was her goal, high five. And yeah, she's still teaching. She's still teaching. Yeah, awful. But so I tried to speak to that because things like that are said. And it just was awful. It was just awful. It's just awful. So if you've heard something like that, I just want you to know that it's awful. So anyhow, we had a great discussion and I really, really enjoyed it. And I hope you read the book. I hope you share it. No, she shouldn't be. Anyone that says things like that should not be. Okay, let's talk about messy autism and living autism out loud. And so I've said this a couple times, this is the summer that we are going to venture out into the world. We are going to venture out. We're going to do stuff. And just yesterday, and I guess to paint the picture, if you live autism adjacent or you are not in our world, we had a lot of years where we couldn't successfully do things. And it doesn't mean we didn't try. It just means we did, little short things and small things and little bursts of things and to build skills. And Cooper is 14 now and he seems ready. Like he seems ready to venture out. And our world is a little bit extra challenging because we have a 3 and a 6-year-old. So our 12-year-old's no problem. He can walk without having his hand held. He knows not to run into traffic. He can wait. He's like an adult in so many ways. He's just, wonderful. Our 3-year-old is still 3. She's wild. And so, we still have little kids. And so that makes things a little bit more complicated. But when they get older, it's just going to keep getting easier, and, Cooper needs 100% of someone's attention. And so yesterday, I needed to pick up my daughter for dance, and my husband wasn't able to be home in time. He had an eye doctor appointment. So I said, Cooper, I was like, do you want to ride with me to pick up Winnie? He didn't have a choice, but it's better to present as an option. And he was like, yeah. And so, that is an example of something that used to be almost nearly impossible, because he would run and roll and take artwork off the wall and try and take books home. And we could work through all of it, but it was hard when you were picking up a toddler. You know, it's like you can't do both things. Cooper also can't sit in the car alone still. He wouldn't know what to do if the car alarm went off. He wouldn't know what to do if someone knocked on the window. He may get out and follow a butterfly. He just, at 14, he still can't sit alone. And so it can make life challenging. So yesterday I was like, let's go pick up Sissy. And so he walked in, and in Winnie's classroom, the kids were outside, but in Winnie's classroom, there's like a typical like carpet with circle carpet with books. And I said, do you want to sit and wait on the carpet and look at books? And he was like, yeah. And so he sat right down. Now, this is interesting. I was talking to Adrian yesterday, and we were talking about invisible disabilities and how, truthfully, the older Cooper gets, and she was saying the older Amos gets, our autism isn't really invisible anymore. It's not. Maybe at first glance, but if you're with Cooper for 3 seconds, you know something's going on. And in a way, it's the weirdest blessing, because it's like we're not having to like constantly like say it. Like, Cooper is most definitely autistic and proud of it and owns it. And so here was an example. So he, you know, at 14, he sat down on the rug and grabbed a book that made him very happy, like a Barney book or something. And then I grabbed Winter. I had an eye on him the whole time. So I grabbed my daughter, and I came back through, and I was like, all done, time to go home. And he looked at me, and he like laid back down and like put his knees up and was like looking at the book on his back. And that is probably Cooper's favorite position. Cooper loves to sit. He loves to lay down. And I was saying to Adrian, 14-year-olds don't walk into a preschool and lay down on a rug. Like it's just one of our signs of our autism. I can't tell you the last time Sawyer, my 12-year-old, laid on the ground at Target or a baseball game or preschool. You know, he just knows to stand. And I thought that was funny, because I was like, you would know within 3 seconds, like, something's going on here. And it is something's going on here. And so it probably took me about a minute to get him up, and it's like, let's go home, and got him up and drove home. Well, actually, we had to drive to dance, and Jamie then took Cooper and brought him home, and I brought Winnie to dance. But I thought that was so interesting. You know, we don't blend in, this boy and I. I say that all the time. We don't blend in. And so now for about a week and a half, we've been venturing out. We went to Home Depot, we went to Dick's Sporting Goods, preschool, multiple baseball games. And I just want to say, it's not easy. So please know that, like, I guess just for my own, like, if you see a family like mine out with a Cooper, we're working really hard to be there, and we're going to do this. And so in these like 5 or 6 instances in the last week, I've landed on this sentence: our autism is messy. And here's what I mean by that. Our autism is, and really I think it comes down a lot to social norms. Coops does not understand social norms. I don't know if he ever will. We're working on it. But our autism is, you know, a very messy shirt, or a shirt that has went up, or pants that have fallen down, food on his face. Now, please know, look at me. We're doing everything we can to keep him clean. But Cooper often looks pretty disheveled. I don't know why. Like, we're always cleaning him. We're always cleaning him, but he just always looks pretty disheveled. And I don't ever want him to. I don't want to give people a reason to look at him or for him to stand out, but we really work on that. He's often touching his nose, or hands in his mouth, or hands in his nose, hands in his pants. Really working on that. Like, bud, we don't do that. Very much, we're really working on covering our mouth when we cough. And he's learning, like, he goes like this. But it would be very, very normal for him to be like, like a very, just really messy, loud cough or sneeze. And so it's like, oh, we cover, really working on that. We're starting to see some really attention-seeking behaviors out in public. And it happened a couple times at baseball. And I share more about puberty and those parts on my subscriber group. I do not to the masses, just out of just real respect for Coop. So if you want to come join that group, please come join. But again, no pressure. But we have maybe pulling pants down or messing with pants. And you can't have that. You can't have that at 14. And so real hypervigilance on Jamie and I to just keep everything intact. Lots of like noises. Snoops makes, if Cooper doesn't want to wait and he wants to go, he'll make some real guttural sounds. That's the only way I can describe it. My subscribers have heard it. Debbie, that's cute. My subscribers have heard it. It's almost like a real guttural, like, I can't even like do it. Hi, Jessica. And so if Cooper makes one of those noises at Sawyer's baseball game, it's like, you really have to be hyper vigilant and just be like, dude, we're not going to make that noise. If you want to say something, you can get my attention nicely and you can tell me, but we're not going to scream. And so it's just constant redirecting. And I want to say, not toxic positivity, but Cooper has come so far. Like he's come so far. It's amazing the progress he's made. And yet we still have a long way to go. And I don't know if we'll ever get there. I don't know if we'll ever, get to the point that, we don't start taking our pants off on the walk to the bathroom. We wait till we get to the bathroom and close the door. I don't know. Or, there's just lots that I don't really want to get into. But I was saying this to my friend Adrienne yesterday, at 2 and 3, autism really blended in more. It really did. Because you could pass it off as naughty toddler. At 14, no. No. And here's where I landed that I wanted to share. It makes people uncomfortable. Another one's waving. Oh my gosh, you guys, Cooper loves waving. And waving's adorable, right? People don't want to wave to people they don't know. And so it's very normal to be going down the freeway and Cooper to be like this, like in the window to a trucker, and I'm like, we're going to get run off the road. Or to almost climb into the McDonald's drive-through window or the Starbucks window and be like, hi-I-E. And people get very nervous. So I feel like I'm always the translator. I'm like, hey, nice job saying hi, Cooper. I'm like, you're doing a really good job. And then the person in the window is like, hi. And I'm not blaming them in any way. He may go up to a car window. That's someone that's parked, that's just gotten in out of gone to the grocery store and back in the car. And he's like, we're going to get shot. But it's just our autism. It's just messy and loud and we don't blend in. And I'm seeing it more and more as we get older. And it's so interesting because I used to think that it was harder at 3 and 4. I always say our hardest ages were 4 to 8. But now this social norm thing, it's really it's like really a problem. And it's funny because I was just at the airport, and every time I'm at the airport, I have two conflicting thoughts at the airport. I'm like, Cooper could never do this. He could never handle these crowds. He could never do this. And then every time I'm at the airport and people just stop walking, and everyone's been there. Everyone has been at the airport and people just stop walking and you're like, whoa. Like they just stop like right in the middle of the walkway. That is totally Cooper. And then I'm always like, Cooper could be here. He's just like everyone else. Super awkward. But he, like one thing that we really see, and I'm going to give you a tip that I learned from someone. I haven't done, but I've learned from someone. I was in San Diego speaking for the San Diego Autism Society. Awesome founder. What is her name? What's her name? Oh gosh, she was so impressive. And she has severe kids. And I was telling her, I'm like, my son Cooper walks right down the center. He does not understand going to the side or stepping out of the way. And when you're 14, people are like, ugh. And we're trying to be right there. Like we're constantly like positioning him and like, oh, we walk over here or let's step out of the way. And this woman that is the founder of this or the director of the Autism Society said that she put in her kids' IEPs to teach them to say, excuse me, with their device. I'm like, that is the smartest thing I've ever heard. Like that is, because she's like, I will not always be with them when they're walking. And my kids come off as rude. They're not being rude purposely. They don't know they're being rude. And so she's like, we worked on saying, excuse me with the device. And I was like, that is the smartest thing I have ever heard. And it's like right now we're working on covering. Like if we have a big cough, oops, we cover, so we're working on that. I don't know if we'll get to excuse me, but I was like, that is genius. Really like in a sense, it's no different than typical parenting that we're preparing our kids to live without us. It's just the stakes are a little bit higher for us. They truly are. We're preparing them to live without us. And I don't see progress in the social norms. So I just keep saying that because like, I guess like I was not prepared for this. I didn't think that I'd have someone who almost looks like a man not understanding that their shirt should be pulled down or their belly hanging out. Or I was walking through the airport once, this was years ago, and I reference it a lot. Cooper was probably like 10, 11. And I was walking through the airport alone and I was overtired. I've been traveling a lot. And I saw this man who clearly had a disability, like sitting alone. And he had his shirt up and his belly was hanging out and like no one was watching him. And someone I'm sure was, but they just weren't watching him closely. And people were like, making fun of him. And it made me so sad. And I vowed in that instant, like, that will not be my son. He will not be, I'm going to do everything I can so he isn't like that. And one day he came home with food all over his face. And I was like, we need to put in his IEP that he needs to practice cleaning his face, washing hands, cleaning face, not using our shirt as a napkin. We fed Cooper last night. He had spaghetti. We all had spaghetti. And at 14, he still tries to use his hands. So I set his plate down. I set all the kids' plates down. And I walked over and he had went like this with the spaghetti and he was going like this. And I was like, dude, use your fork. And he was like, ha, 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 ha. And then used his fork. It's still just the first reaction is to just use his hands. And I was like, no, nobody. And so there's just so many areas that we just haven't made progress in. And I'm just sharing them with you because I think a big part of this is like still working towards the goal while accepting that it may not happen. but not giving up. If I could like just keep listening, it's like, we're going to keep trying. I'm going to be 80 and I'm going to be like, cover your mouth. Cover your mouth. Clothes is a big one. I want his clothes. He deserves dignity. And I will say, and a lot of you have noticed this, Cooper's lost 35 pounds. And when he was 35 pounds heavier, finding clothes that fit him was nearly impossible. It was nearly impossible. And I've heard this from other individuals who don't have disabilities, who have challenges with their weight. They're like, finding clothes is so hard. And I want him covered. I want him, to have dignity. This necklace is from Little Rebels. I can tag them, or someone could tag them. I love this necklace. I'm so proud of this necklace. I wear it every day. I love it. Also, it's me, Leslie. I had to create a new one. Oh, okay. Hi. Okay, I have to get ready for the dentist. I'm going to throw a link to my book in here just because if you haven't read it, I would love that if you did. I'd love if you shared it or gifted it. And it's all about living autism out loud. So I'm going to share a link to that when we're done. And then also my first book, Forever Boy, it's for sale right now on Audible for $6.99. So if you haven't listened to Forever Boy yet and you want to get it, pop onto Audible and order it. It's on sale for the month, maybe like a week more, I think. It's part of this Audible sale. So yay. I'm sort of dressed up. I had to run some errands this morning, but I just took this bag out of my suitcase. Or this dress out of my suitcase and just threw it on. So sort of dressed up. Just by chance. Okay. Good night. Good day, everyone. Have a wonderful day, and I'll check in later. Okay.